So, you know, the whole term separation of church and state that's used to say things like you can't bring your faith and your belief system into the political world, to write law and policy and, force it on our nation. And that whole term, separation of church and state, let me just point out, it does not mean that at all, but that's a different video. But that whole term that's used really to push, the conservative Christians back and say you can't force your belief system onto the political world. So here's my thought is, when you boil it all down, any political viewpoint, ideology, thoughts on law, thoughts on how our nation should be run is a belief system. And to imply that Christians, conservatives can't because of separation of church and state, because you can't bring your belief system, is 100% false. But the hypocrisy is astounding. And here's the other side note on that, because, like I said before, it's all, everybody has a belief system that they try to push into the political world. And so the whole separation of church and state term, isn't it funny and crazy that that term is never screamed at the Christians who believe Christ is okay with abortion, that Jesus is okay with, since he fed the poor, he's completely okay with welfare, and, he was an immigrant, so he's completely okay with, illegal immigration. Nobody screams at that side and belief system of Christianity. They don't scream separation of church and state at that. They only do to conservative Christians who believe abortion is wrong and that Jesus would be, against illegal, or our faith says there's a lawful way to do it, and that Jesus is not for welfare, he's for the church and the Christians doing it. So on that level, the hypocrisy is astounding. Like the lady who did the clergy lady who did the service for Trump's inauguration, right? Nobody screamed at her at separation of church and state because her Christian viewpoint goes along with the leftist ideology. So somehow that Christianity and that belief system is okay. There's no separation of church and state there. It's only conservatives that have the separation of church and state. They're doing it wrong. And I just was thinking about that because, what? Again, the hypocrisy is astounding. Thoughts? Comments? Concerns?